And good morning. Welcome back to Iconic Freedom, the formula. We are setting the standard for accountability and responsibility, the ownership of your choices and the ability to respond to those choices and everything that follows. Let each care for self and all will be cared for. So we talked about the formula. I talk about it every weekend. That periodic chart that sits on my social media pages. Check it out if you can. But it's all about choice, responsibility, and accountability. And we are going to deep dive into a sneaky, toxic habit. I think that it's easy sometimes to spot it in others, but it's harder to admit it to ourselves. And that's about double standards in ordinary life. From parenting to where you work, your friendships, the people you hang out with at church. A double standard will undermine everything that we say that is important to us, but we then don't live like it is important to us. And today, hopefully, we will crack this egg open. And once you see these things, you won't be able to unsee them, which is great. So there's this phrase that I heard that I just love. What you're doing is so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. Yeah, what you're doing is so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. So a parent tells their child to speak respectfully, but then they scream at their spouse. I watched my parents do that. Maybe your boss says, will demand you have to be accountable, but then they never own their mistakes, and they're always trying to find somebody to blame it on. Maybe some leader or a pastor, they'll talk about empathy and fairness. I hate that word, fairness. But then they will cut corners and play favorites. I was telling a friend the other day that I don't sit there and say, here's a shortcut. I stop using that in my everyday language. Instead, I say, here are some efficiencies, because the efficiencies don't try to get around the responsibility and the accountability of the choices that you're making, but hopefully those efficiencies help make it quicker and easier to get there. So, this is what we're talking about when we're talking about double standards. And when it shows up in ordinary life, your day-to-day, it doesn't just break your trust, but it breaks your identity. Because it forces the people around you to reconcile with what you say you value with what you actually do. So, what you're doing is so loud I can't hear what you're saying. So, if you say you value something, great. Then your life should look that way, right? Here's a forensic truth, if you will, that the people around you don't follow your words. They follow your behavior. If you're a person that says, I do X, Y, and Z every day, and then you don't, people are going to notice. They're going to know it. They're going to be able to see it. So let's talk about, say, at work. You've got double standards at work, okay? So one employee gets called assertive and another one gets called aggressive. Same tone, same points, different gender, different race, different age, I don't know. Or maybe it's this: your boss expects loyalty but throws you under the bus the moment that they become challenged. A colleague might show up late every day. No one bats an eye. You do it once, and there's a write-up. So here's your takeaway from all of that, right? The double standards aren't just unfair. They erode credibility, and they poison a culture. And they teach people that excellence doesn't matter, only favoritism does. So if you're in a position of leadership, you got to be thinking about, am I being consistent? When I worked at the Empire State Building, One of the things that, people said about me after a while, and I didn't even know this, they're the ones that told me, was that they liked the fact that I was consistent. That, listen, it didn't matter who you were, whether I liked you or not, and a lot of people didn't even know if I liked them or not. I was consistent. These are the rules that we have to live by in this building. This is what we have to do. And it was a great compliment to hear people say something like that, because that's who I wanted to be in life. I wanted to be a person that's consistent with myself, and I'm consistent with others. But when you start living one standard, one rule, one expectation that's not applied equally, then suddenly, everything gets out of kilter. But when you do have that consistency, everything sharpens. Your accountability becomes clarity, and that clarity becomes power for you. Power in that you're able to manage your life easier and easier as time goes on. So if we talk about spirituality and like your community and personal growth, all that kind of stuff. Okay, how about when it comes to self-development? You've seen it. People will preach peace, but they blow up on social media. They'll claim to follow their faith, but then they excuse their own hypocrisy when grace covers it. I love that thing. Maybe we have grace with these people. What? No! Stop giving people a free pass. That's not what grace is for. Right? It's like, it's an amazing thing to me that we want to use these euphemistic words to allow people to get away with inconsistencies, with their double standards, with their hypocrisy. And they'll talk about forgiveness, but then, some people will keep a list of enemies that's like a mile long. So you want to talk about forensics? Here it is. If your growth isn't making you more honest about yourself, it's not growth. It's just a performance. If your growth, if your self-evaluation and self-correction isn't making you more honest with yourself, no longer scamming yourself, then it's not growth. It's just you in performance art. It's just a performative thing for you. You're not really living it. It's not natural to you. When your standards only apply when they're convenient, that's not character, and it's not integrity. That's just a manipulation. And trust me, the people around you, whether or not they say it, they have a sense of it. They almost feel it. So if you're forensically looking for efficiency in your observations and you're sleuthing the double standard, just ask yourself, is this person owning their choice or their choices? Is this person owning their accountability and everything that follows, which impacted myself and others? I'm going to say all that again. If you're forensically looking for efficiency in your observations and you're trying to sleuth the double standard for yourself or for others, mainly for others in this particular example, ask yourself these two questions. You can carry these questions with you everywhere you go in life. Is this person owning their choice? Is this person owning their accountability and everything that follows which impacted others? Double standards don't survive in environments where accountability is non-negotiable. They live in places where people pretend to be about values, but they live in emotion and impulse and image control. And if you are constantly bending the rules for yourself that you'd never allow in someone else, well, that's not survival. That's a self-betrayal. That's you scamming yourself, right? So one of the things that I wanted to make sure I follow up on is the idea of having double standards and people having conflict within themselves about that. And a lot of times that double standard is about an image build. It's why you're being nice in one moment or you're being angry in one moment and then you pick up the phone and, it's like, rah, 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 and then you pick up the phone and you go, hello. My mother used to do this all the time. But it's about the image building in that conflict, that contradiction of self happens in that double standard of, not being congruent, basically, in your behavior and in your choices. Okay, so what standard are you actually living? So let's wrap this up with a case you've seen 100 times. A person says they hate drama. They say they want peace. They say, I can't stand the gossip and the division and the immaturity. But every room they walk into ends up chaotic. Every conversation, a complaint. Every relationship ends the same way, with them claiming they were mistreated and misunderstood. I know these people live in your universe, and I know you've experienced it. So here's my forensic read on it. If everywhere you go, there's a mess, you're not the observer, you are the common denominator. It's about you. You can't just claim a standard. You have to actually live it. Even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable, or, maybe it costs your ego. And you know what? The more ego you can get away from, the better. Because I will tell you, the real test of a standard isn't how well you can spot a double standard in others. It's how well you eliminate it in yourself. Your integrity is the standard. Your accountability is the audit. And your peace is in the proof of what's observed. If you say you want to live in truth, then you got to start by removing the lies you live with about yourself, about what you're doing. If you say that you value freedom, then you got to start by releasing the stories that keep you bound up, the things that you tell yourself, the image you try to create. Just make your choices. Your image will be whatever it's going to be. Just make your choices. You see animals running around. You think that they're thinking about what their image is? No, they're just trying to live their life, right? That's what they're doing. And if you say that you hate hypocrisy, then stop tolerating it in your home, in your workplace, in your relationships, and in your own mirror. Because the double standard will never die until you stop giving it oxygen. All right, we are at the end of another podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this. Hey, hit that like button if you would. Share it with your family and friends. You never know how it might support them in their endeavor. All the fun links are below, and if you're inclined, feel free to subscribe on Buzzsprout. I'm on X and Truth Social and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. And until next time, stay sharp, stay free, and always remember, let each care for self, and all will be cared for. Make it a great week.